Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. This will be the final one for the year. We'll return in January. Tonight's show is sponsored by Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions. So, Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions here in South Florida. Feel free to look them up, give them a shout, and we appreciate them being a sponsor for us tonight. So, we have a great show lined up here tonight. First of all, we're going to talk about the Juan Soto developments. Talk about a new manager in Miami by the name of Clayton McCullough, the Athletics, and I repeat, the Athletics, a couple new members of the Hall of Fame, Willie Adames, and the Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation. As for my crew tonight, we got the Barber. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to be here,
You're
even
welcome,
if Eric's here.
Yeah, we got Eric Katz. Looking good.
Thanks, Scott. I'm ready to come out, guns blazing. You better watch out because my trigger finger's itchy.
I have no doubt about that at all.
We don't want to know about what you're doing in your house.
Yeah, I know. When he's guns a blazing, he's guns a blazing. Yeah, we got Trent, Mr. Rings Clark here, leading winning teams. There you go. Bring them out. Show them out there.
What's up, boys? Good to see everybody. Glad to be here. Eric Parker, welcome back. I figured you were, you were just, licking your wounds over your Yankee loss is what I figured.
Yeah, oh boy, you guys are messing with the wrong animal.
I can only imagine. And finally, we got George Eichhorn. We have a busy agenda tonight. George, welcome back.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get to that thing that we call an agenda. Everybody knows by now that Juan Soto broke the bank thanks to the New York Mets. New York Mets signed him to a 15-year, $765 million contract. The Yankees actually had a 16-year deal on the table worth, I believe it was $760 million, but you take out the 1 year and then the $5 million, and the Mets got themselves a player. Will the Mets win a World Series? Go ahead, Mark. What are your thoughts?
You really want to know my thoughts? I think they overpaid.
Not really.
Yeah, I think they overpaid significantly for a guy who is a pretty good hitter, but like Eric said before we even got rolling, man, he's an average fielder at best. 15 years? That dude would be 41 when his contract runs out. He'll be lucky if he lasts 5 or 6 years on that contract. I'll be impressed if he does that, man. And I look at that money, it's disgusting. It really is. It's killing the game. It's killing the game. It's killing the fan base. There's so many people out there whose team can't afford to even think about spending that kind of money, deferred or not. And, I just think it's killing baseball.
Okay, Eric.
I mean, number one, he shattered the record last year set by Shohei Ohtani. But Shohei Ohtani is the kind of player that baseball has never seen, where he can pitch and hit at an insanely high level. So obviously he deserved to kind of shatter that record because baseball has never seen that player. But Juan Soto, great offensive player, don't get me wrong, but they're calling him generational, which I don't believe he is. Because I've seen other players do it way better than he's doing it now. He's an average defender at best. I mean, he was improved this year. He wasn't nearly as bad as in past years, but you broke the bank on a player that you could probably find for less money on the free agent market. I mean, probably not as young, but still does the same thing. You still get the equal or more value there, but you just dumped a bunch of money into a player that you could probably find, anywhere. And, to me, it's just, I just think that the Mets just overpaid for it. And as we all know with other guys, those contracts get ugly in a hurry, whether it be injury or just general your age and you lose your skills, which that's just professional sports. You can't keep doing it forever. But those odds are the Mets are going to be paying him $50 to $55 million in the future to be a designated hitter or first baseman, which, that can't be feeling too good. I mean, yeah, Steve Cohen's got the money, blah, 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 but wouldn't Steve Cohen at least be a little pissed off that he's paying someone to do that when he could get some other guys to do it less? I know I would, even if I had that amount of money.
Turn over to Trent.
Yeah, it's an overpayment situation, and it's going to bite him. I mean, it's going to bite him on the backside of this thing. I
Good.
mean, you've got peak years of basically 27 to 32. You're at your maximum. You're still physically strong. You're experienced. His experience might come in earlier than that because he's been in the league so long. Most kids don't arrive in the league at 18 years old. So there's something to be said for that. So maybe his period's longer. But man, 41 in Latin American years, man, that might be 47 in real years. So I don't know how old he's going to be at the end of this thing, but I just don't. I agree with Eric in the fact I don't think he's a generational player. I mean, I think you can replace this guy, and I don't know the stats on it, and maybe George, you got those, but like I truly believe you can replace these stats with guys that are a lot less expensive than this, man. And I don't want to discount that he's not a great player. He's a good player. I just don't think I don't think he's a franchise player like that. And I think he's a high quality guy that's a real adder to a team. At that number, it's crazy. I'll go back to, I think it was 2000 when the Angels signed Mo Vaughn for $81 million. And that was a pretty big overpayment for a guy that really never produced anything after his years in Boston.
Okay, George.
Yeah, as far as the stats go, Trent, you alluded to. I mean, he's had some really good years. Okay, last year 41 home runs, 109 RBI. The year before in San Diego, 35 and 109. So he has had great consistency at least the last couple of years. Before that with Washington, he had a couple of so years in there. But yeah, I mean, what you guys said is so true. Listen, and I know I've told you these things before, but the Tigers went through the same thing with Miguel Cabrera. I mean, you give these guys so much money up front, and it is a tough situation because Martinez was another one at DH, and then he retired, and then they put Miguel at DH, and he was run down in his last few years. Still a great ball player, but you see it didn't give the Tigers anything. There was nothing to leverage. There was nothing in his last few years for Miguel here in Detroit. But that being said, I agree with you guys. It's too much money, and the Mets they've had some bad signings over the years with all this money they throw around. The history is not good for that.
They deserve it.
Good. No one
Hey, how about Chris Davis? Y'all are forgetting Chris Davis and the monster contract he had with the Orioles. I don't even think he produced 2 years out of that contract.
And they're still paying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can sit here and do a show of some of the worst contracts on the planet, but we don't have time for it now.
Yeah.
But let me bring these numbers up, okay? Because we saw what happened with Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols obviously didn't perform badly compared to some of the others. But here's what you've got, okay? Well, according to Front Office Sports, at $765 million, Juan Soto's reported deal is more than $757 million. The Pirates' payroll since 2015.
757.
Okay. Yeah, $757 million.
Good old Bobby Betty.
Pirates' payroll. Hold on. Now it gets better. $678 million, the average MLS franchise. Now we're talking MLS people. Okay. $531 million, LeBron James all-time NBA earnings. $450 million. If anybody deserves to feel like he's overpaid, it's Patrick Mahomes, because that deal runs through 2031. You're underpaid at $450 million? Seriously? Really? Okay. $332 million, Tom Brady's all-time NFL earnings. $255 million to 2024 NFL salary cap. And $154 million Tiger Woods career PGA earnings. Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Anybody care to elaborate on that? Okay, now let's see. Let's go back to the chat room. There's some interesting stuff here. Are they asking me about what I'm going to eat and all that? Because if they did, okay, Deshaun Watson with the Browns. Yeah, that was a bad one for sure.
For a number of different reasons.
Question, Scott, would you go to the moon? I'd go anywhere I could go, man. If there's a trip to be had, there's a trip to be had. So I'll take it. So I hope that answers your question in a candid way. Those are some pretty unbelievable numbers. Juan Soto's a generational player, but like you guys have pointed out, he doesn't pitch either, which makes Ohtani justifiable over that $700 million. Now the question is will he win a World Series with his time with the Mets? I gotta believe that he really will, because we all know that Steve Cohen isn't afraid to go out there and spend the money, and he has a salary cap tax of all of his own when he gets to a certain threshold. But that's been our big story all day long. Anybody have any closing thoughts on it? In and out of the chat room?
Is there a $2 billion TV contract behind it for some country in Latin America? Because I know in Japan there was a contract behind Ohtani for television. So, I'm trying to figure out how you afford $760 million. This is a lot of the hedge fund just went out to Juan Soto. So, man, I think it's bonkers, man.
I mean, you got to have a budget. You got to have a budget somewhere in there.
Right. I think the thing that intrigues me about the whole thing is the Yankees rarely get bid for anybody, but $5 million more and one less year, and he goes there. And the last time I remember the Yankees losing a guy to money was Robinson Cano, and we all saw how that turned out. So,
yeah, good. He just
bad deals.
Yeah. Robinson Cano deserved everything that happened to him in Seattle.
Well, I agree. Yeah, Robinson Cano should never have left New York in the first place. We all saw how that went down. Okay, now we're going to talk about those that have to those that don't, okay? And that's this. The Miami Marlins new manager is a guy by the name of Clayton McCullough. He's age 44. He'll be actually 45 on December 27th, and he was born in 1979, so 2 days before my birthday. But he's been with the Dodgers system from 2015 to 2024 as a first base coach. He's reached the postseason 4 straight series as a minor league field coordinator. But when you look at his managerial numbers with the Blue Jays, he's 402 and 367 in 7 minor league managerial campaigns with 6 winning seasons. He's also managed in the Northwest League in 2012 and the Florida State League manager of Dunedin in 2011. So let's go to you, Mark, first of all, okay? Do you think this is a good hire for the Miami Marlins?
No. Not at all. I mean, this team needs somebody who, to a certain degree, they need somebody who has some stability in building a team. This is a team that's got to be rebuilt from some of the guys they moved on from, and they do have a few pieces there. But you're bringing in a guy who has a lot of experience with the organization that goes out and buys their players. I don't know. He wouldn't have been my number 1 pick, that's for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Eric.
I mean, like every manager that ever has gone to Miami, with the exception of maybe 3, they've all come in with a lot of fanfare, and they end up leaving the organization with a losing record. And I don't think, I mean, Clayton McCullough has been in the Dodger system for a while, where they do a good job developing players. Don't get me wrong. And they've definitely developed some studs over there, but the Dodgers can easily fill their house up with free agents as well and some. The Marlins don't do that. We've seen them over the years where even when they do that, they just go ahead and fire sale it, which for some reason I'm shocked they haven't changed their name from the Marlins to the Miami Fire Sales. I think I just don't see it though, because he's never had that experience of building a team. Skip Schumacher did. Skip Schumacher was in St. Louis, where their primary means of using players is the minor league system. I mean, yeah, they go ahead and spend on a free agent every now and then, but it's not to the magnitude of, say, like Juan Soto or Mookie Betts or anyone on that line. But coming in there, boy, he's going to be in for a culture shock, and it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being another situation where he's essentially Don Mattingly out the door.
Interesting. Trent?
Well, first of all, let me give a shout out to Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. Like, welcome aboard. If you're going to go by that name, I'm down with it right now. But let me give that coach. Dan Campbell, no one thought too much of coming into the Lions. No one heard of him. Who's this guy? They don't think much. No pedigree, no NFL head coach experience. I can tell you the minor league record means jack snot, because you're there to develop players. No one really cares if you win or lose. That is not the goal. How you run your team and how you move them through the organization is much more important than wins and losses. It's about developing talent. And man, he is going to have to develop talent. So I'm hoping he's a Dan Campbell or Ted Lasso. Like, listen, let's see what the guy can do, because everybody deserves his chance. Miami's going to go on a limb. I'm sure he's a bargain, by the way, because Miami's not spending. So, we got to come and find out. And I'm going to give the guy some grace and give him his due, and let's see what he can do. But he, to Eric's point, he better be fabulous with player development, because he's going to have a AAA team that he's got to compete with.
Well, Peter Bendix is trying to bring in his own people. Clayton's one of his. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I will say though, Dan Campbell actually was the interim head coach in Miami. He actually did a pretty good job there. And unfortunately, though, the Dolphins made the same mistake with him as they did with Drew Brees.
Amen.
That's a great.
How many days did Dan Campbell get as the interim? Do you know that?
12. He had 12 games. He went 5 and 7
games. Wow. That's
and
great.
he had Miami.
Thank you for that correction. I appreciate that.
He actually had Miami in the playoff hunt for a bit during that season. But Miami made the same mistake with him, just like they did with Drew Brees and amongst other people.
All right, George.
Well, I like this line, Marlins owner Bruce Sherman said, "I don't want an 18th manager. He's on his third managerial hire since 2022. I want a 17th manager to stay for many, many years." If that's not the kiss of death, no, really. I mean, I wish McCullough well. I mean, yeah, you're coming from a great organization, the Dodgers. You're a coach there, and there certainly has to be an opportunity for him to manage, and he feels it's worth the opportunity, obviously, to go to Miami. It is a franchise that's very fragile. I mean, whether they're trying to improve the team, whether they're trying to attract fans, whether they're trying to hold on to their staff and their manager, it always seems to be a constant problem with the Marlins right now and in the past several years. So I wish him well. It is a tough assignment. It is a tough business, and you know that. You've been in it, Trent. But I have to say this. I do wish him luck, but I also say that he does have good baseball pedigree. He's coming from a winning organization, the Dodgers. We'll see what happens, right?
I'll just say this. The biggest mistake the Marlins made was letting Kim Ng go. She had that organization moving around in the right direction. One more topic to get to. We go to a station break. The Athletics, and I repeat, the Athletics, because that's what they go by these days. And veteran right-hander Luis Severino agreed to a 3-year, $67 million, the richest contract in A's history. My goodness. All right, Mark, take a stab at this thing. Luis Severino gets to play in Sacramento.
What a lucky guy, huh?
Yeah.
He's going to be the face of the franchise with that kind of contract, right? Isn't he? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're just reaching for straws. I don't know what the A's are doing. I have no idea what their game plan is. They go up to Sacramento while things get settled up in Vegas. They do have I like, what's his name? Geloff? You know who I'm talking about.
Geloff.
Yeah,
Zach
thank
Geloff.
you. Yeah, I can't say that damn name. But I like him, and I think they got a couple of guys on that team. But going out and spending that kind of money on Severino, what was he? He was with the Mets, and what was he, like number 3 or number 4?
He was like a number 3-ish starter. Nothing special. Had a deep, not a great, okay year. He was serviceable, but he's not nearly the guy that he was with the Yankees were counting on him to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they just throw money. Some of these teams got to throw some money out there to make it look like they really give a shit if they're competitive. But
right.
you know what I mean? Like, that's how I viewed that. When I saw that signing, I was just like, really? That's where you're going to throw your money?
That's why I brought it in the show, so I could get responses like what you just threw out there.
Yeah.
Mark. It worked. Yeah. Okay, Eric.
Well, I think number one, it's the A's. I mean, it's John Fisher, who probably lied. He probably has lied more times than in his life than Bill Clinton. I think though, there's counting on Severino to be numero uno, which is what the Yankees, for a little while there in New York, he was certainly on that trajectory, especially after the 2017-2018 season where he was an all-star. But he went there because of the money. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not dismiss that he went there for the money, because that place is a sham. It's the only reason he went to go and play at a AAA ballpark was for the money. And, he good at him to stay healthy. I mean, it's been a while since we've had that happen. And, but he's no longer the guy that the Yankees, that he looked like with the Yankees early on. He's been hurt in between. He's even had to miss an entire season because of it, because he was hurt. And, he's missed multiple games. But you go ahead and give him that amount of money. I mean, yes, I get the pitching market's very bloated these days, and it's probably higher. It's probably going. The money is probably going to ascend higher than inflation. I think that I think personally the A's are just doing this because they gotta somehow wow the people of Las Vegas that they're actually doing something. But all they really did was pick up a little pebble and throw it in the water.
A lot of good points. You know what? Before I turn over to Trent, I'll make my comments short because I want Trent and George to take over. All I'll say about this move is the Athletics are trying, and that's it. I'm not going any further than that.
Trying.
But I will say that tonight's show is sponsored by Sawgrass Cleaning Solution. I can say that, but they are trying, and I'm leaving it at that. If you sense any sarcasm in that comment, go ahead. You're entitled to take that way. Okay, Trent, take it from there.
Yeah, we're a far cry away from Moneyball. I don't know what happened to the program. I mean, if we were going for something, it seems like it's changed directions. God bless like Luis Severino getting over $20 million a year to pitch. I mean, that's amazing to me. Like it makes no sense to me. I mean, and the numbers that George just went over with Soto, Brady Anderson had better numbers one year than that. Like, right. He hit 50 home runs. I mean, can you imagine giving this Brady Anderson one of the top 3 salaries in Major League Baseball, let alone the top one? I mean, this has got some bonkers written all over it. It just feels like what's up is down, what's left is right. I don't know, man. Something's off in the Earth's axis or something, because we're throwing money around, obviously like it's monopoly money, and man, the lack of intentionality just throws me off, because I feel like if someone went in there and actually ran this thing like a business and ran some things really well through the numbers and actually built business systems like we do in business, I think you'd kill people. And I also say this is the exact reason why we should have like promotion and relegation. Like, please start relegating major league teams. Like, the A's should be down playing in AAA Sacramento, exactly where they should be. Let's have Louisville, Charlotte, Buffalo. Let's promote one of these teams to the major leagues and see what they can do, because this is a hot mess, man.
Let's put Durham up there. I mean, well, why not?
Durham, yeah, Durham Bulls.
Raleigh, Durham.
I love them.
Raleigh, Durham.
Best
the
minor
only
league
thing,
team ever.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Scott. I mean, you guys have covered it very well, but I especially like your comment, Eric, about his performance in New York, the Yankees, and how often he was injured. He won 1 game, and then the next season 1 game, and then the next season 7 games. And his final year as a Yankee, wow, he won 4 games. I mean, you hit it right on the head, guys. This is ridiculous. The money they're giving out to pitchers, everybody wants good pitching, and they're just these owners are throwing it at their feet and trying to get whoever they can just to see if there's something there. And it happens all the time, especially these teams like Seattle, Detroit, Miami, whatever, that are kind of the smaller markets now. But it is ridiculous. I mean, he doesn't deserve it, but all the more power to him. That's his last big contract, obviously, Severino.
I mean, it certainly I mean, that's what happens when your franchise is run by a bozo the clown owner named John Fisher, who got rich off his mommy and daddy's money from Gap.
Well, let me just tell you, this is I think, George, you hit a sore subject with me, because this is the one position in sports that everyone seems to like have this long-standing memory. Like, oh my gosh, 2017, what a great year the guy was. I'm like, 2017, bro, it's 2024. What are we talking about? The 16 games he won 7 years ago. And yet here comes contracts going, oh, the guy's stuff was lights out. I'm like, who gives a crap what happened 7 years ago? It's this constant thing with pitchers that people think they all of a sudden they're gonna, oh, you know what? When he comes back and starts working with me, I'm going to get him back into that Hall of Fame Cy Young shit. Like, shut up. Like, listen, something's wrong. And the guy's won 8 games over 4 seasons. Like, let's just settle what it is and pay him accordingly.
I like to comment in the chat room, Jay. I like it when Scott goes all Herm Edwards. Yeah, I do too. I don't have to throw for it tonight, but don't worry, I'll give you a Herm Edwards there. Seriously, really? Herm Edwards? Okay, it's not a fraction of what I can do. But I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to turn over to Candy, and she can give us a station break. Go ahead, Candy.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see the red subscribe button, that means you've not hit the red subscribe button and subscribe to our channel. I honestly don't know why not, but please do so and share us with all your friends and family. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book late last year called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning in the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, and the foreword was written by George Eichhorn. Talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the business and how it has changed. Go get your copy today. Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble, Apple and Google Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is also a link where you can buy merchandise from our store. There's also a plethora of really good writers that write for us. So go check out our website. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. But we want to do a special shout out tonight. We want to say thank you for Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions for sponsoring our show tonight. If you want to be a sponsor or want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. Again, special shout out to Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions. Back to you, Scott.
All right, Candy, and thanks very much for Sawgrass for being a part of tonight's show. Talk a little Hall of Fame. Dick Allen, Dave Parker were elected to the Hall of Fame. It'll be in 2025. I believe Dick Allen is posthumously in. Parker received 14 of the 16 votes from the Classic Baseball Era Committee. Allen ended up with 13. Allen had a 15-year career, lifetime hitting of 292. Parker, meanwhile, who's 73, hit 290, 2,712 hits, 339 home runs, 1,493 RBI, 19 season. We all know that Parker is known in Pittsburgh as part of that team that we are family. With that said, no better person to start off with these Hall of Famers than Mr. Maraday himself, since that's where I met Mark, was over at the Baseball Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts about both of these guys getting in finally?
Well, I think it's about time for both of them, to be honest with you. Parker actually was probably, after Clemente, Parker was the best right fielder they ever had. And he had all the tools. He really did. I'm not sure why he got lost in the shuffle all these years and never got in sooner, to be honest with you. I mean, he really was. He had a hell of an arm. He could throw it from the wall to the plate. He could hit the shit out of the ball out of the park. He could just hit for power around the field. You know, he even had solid speed. He played right field in old Three Rivers Stadium. I mean, it just surprises me it took him that long. And Dick Allen, he's, when you think about the 4 best players that ever played in Philly, his name has to come to mind. He really was one of the staples, of that organization. So I think it's a good move by baseball to put those guys in.
Eric?
I mean, Dick Allen, he was one of the most consistent hitters of the 70s, played for the Chicago White Sox. Fun fact, he was part of the trade that Kurt Flood refused to go in when he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, and Kurt Flood didn't go and took Bowie Kuhn to court. About time that Dave Parker got in. I mean, this is what I have a problem with when, he was part of kind of the whole cocaine mess thing in Pittsburgh. But that's probably one of the players accused, just given that it was going around the clubhouse. But this is what I had a problem. This is why I absolutely and unequivocally hate it when writers want to moralize the votes. I swear, I think about half of them after the steroids era went to church seeking forgiveness for praising Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. I think that it was a long time coming for Dave Parker. I mean, there's call him the Cobra for a reason, and he was a big part of the Pirates for a long time, and kind of was a perfect segue there from other players leaving, kind of the good replacement for Roberto Clemente if you can replace him. But, and also Dick Allen, I mean, gosh, should have lived to see it, man. One of the most consistent hitters of the 70s, and you decide not to include him? Who the hell were you voting for? Johnny Damon? But I'm glad to see that they both got in, and it should be a nice celebration in Cooperstown.
Yeah, I was glad to see Fred McGriff get in at long last too. Here's a guy that hit a lot of home runs,
About
and he
damn
lost a
time.
lot of games due to
He was a
labor.
crime dog.
Yeah, he was. All right, Trent, turn it over to you.
I think both good picks. I mean, some shocking why this has to come so long. I mean, I'm not surprised. I guess I'm a little surprised about Dave Parker being kind of overlooked. I mean, I always thought like Cobra was a big name. I mean, maybe a little overshadowed by Willie Stargell when he was there, for not by playability, but probably more just being a character, right? And so, go ahead, Barbara.
I was going to say Eric hit the nail on the head. He was part of that cocaine thing with Del Barra and all that stuff. And he's 100% right. From a moral standpoint, those guys didn't want to let him in, but now all those dudes are dying off. So it's time to let the guy in.
Good. About time they start dying off.
Well, I think the moral high ground's a dangerous territory. I mean, it's back to throw the first stone, right? Like, I know you're trying to get some level of limitation and where people belong and where they don't belong and all that good stuff. And I appreciate that. And I know there's got to be a cut, but man, I thought this is the Hall of Fame on playability, man. This is about like what you were as a player. And man, if we're going to talk about what we are as people, man, we got bad news for a lot of our public leaders, let alone our athletes.
George?
Yeah, well, both of them are very deserving. I mean, Dick, don't call me Rich Allen. And there's been much said about that in the research that I've followed through the years, but especially recently when I found out about how many things, that people either held against him or they were rude and mean. They felt he was too rude and mean. Owners and managers and coaches and players and media. And there was a lot of anti-this against Allen, which is a shame. He never even crossed the 20% threshold, which is a joke by the writers in the voting when he was eligible. Just a terrible, terrible black mark. And it really is a shame. I agree with you, Eric, that he's not alive there, but be well assured his family will be well represented, and the fans in Chicago, the White Sox and Philly fans that followed his career. And what can I say about our friend Dave Parker? I mean, I loved him as a ball player. I mean, both these guys are so well deserving.
Onward we go. Willie Adames agrees to a 7-year, $182 million deal from San Francisco Giants. $22 million went into a signing bonus. Mark, there's a guy that goes from a small market team to the Giants. What are your thoughts about Willie Adames going to Frisco?
Hey, is that the piece that they need to take them to the next level to compete against San Diego and the Dodgers? That's my question. Like, is this the guy that's going to come in and do something for your team to take you to that level? I don't think so. I'll go back to what I said earlier about just throwing money around with Cervino. I think some of these teams, feel like they just have to throw some money around and sign some big names to keep the fan base happy and to make it look like they are committed to winning. I don't think Adames is a bad player, but I don't know if he's worth that kind of money. I'm not sure what the expectations are going to be on him coming in, but when you throw that kind of money around for a guy like that, they've got to be through the roof. And I don't think he's that piece that's going to take them through the roof.
Yeah, but I don't think San Francisco is one of those teams that just throws money around. And when they actually make moves, they actually make pretty good moves. I could see some of the other ones you're alluding to, but not the Giants, I don't think. But that's just my opinion. Go ahead, Eric.
I mean, what I know about Willie Adames, I had him here in Milwaukee for about 4 years, about 4 or 5 seasons. Great ball player, I mean, he had a career year last year, but he's typically 20 to 25ish to 20 to 25ish home run guy to 85 to 90 RBI along that range. Not an all-star numbers by any stretch of the imagination, but a guy you want in your lineup. But also, he's very streaky Like when he's hot, he is hot. But when he is cold, he's colder than a beer at a brewer's tailgate. But I personally like the move, but it can't be the only move. He's a good piece in the lineup, but he can't be the guy that you build around. And it'll be interesting though, because the ballpark that they got in San Francisco, I think AT&T Park or whatever they're calling it these days, is a lot bigger, and and unlike Milwaukee, it's a lot less friendly to offenses, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays there. And also, he had been great defensively here in Milwaukee, but last year he really fell off defensively. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out in a place like San Francisco.
The only thing I'll say about it, Dom, it's always good to see a role player once in a while have a good year and be able to have one good payday in his career, so that he can invest that money properly. He'll be set for life. Go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, I like that line of thinking, Motor City. I mean, I think that it's great to see somebody rewarded for a good season. Obviously, had it at the right time. Eric, as you said, he really shined last year. His last year of his contract, so that does open up some opportunity, which is great. And maybe it's the one catapult that sends a guy from a career kind of role player into a starting position and really gives him the chance. Man, a lot of pressure, 182 million pounds of pressure right there on a starting role. So, and in a market that's not very forgiving either, by the way, they're pretty rough up there. Oh, yeah. And you're gonna find out, like, man, I'm reminded of the old Jerry Maguire, the old TV show. People don't understand the pressure that come with $182 million. And
love that movie.
I don't know, man. Him crying about it's not gonna do anything, but Motor City, game changing generational money. He's never gonna, it's gonna set his career for the sunset him, and good for him, for a guy who's done everything that every team asked of him and showed up, and he's a gamer, so you got to give him that. And it's nice to see the gamers get paid as opposed to the, guys who win 7 games and start making $20 million a year.
No kidding. Well, again, a journeyman who's not only going to get paid a little bit of money. I hope that he actually does all right out in San Francisco. I really, really do. We'll see how that happens. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, here's the thing about I was going to go back to Trent's comment. Here's the thing about the pitching market, though. The pitching market has drastically changed since we all started following the game. Wins from a starting pitcher, and probably pitchers in general, arguably, are not really valued anymore. What they're doing now is they value a couple of things, and probably other advanced analytics too, but like pitches and how it plays out and whatever, ground ball rate. But it's about strikeouts and earned run average. That's what teams are strictly looking at. Years ago, you can have a low ERA, but if you ain't winning ball games, you ain't getting money. But now that's all changed. So if a pitcher, say, wins 7 games but has an ERA of, say, 2 or in like 2.5 or 2.5 to 3.0 range, you're getting paid. I mean, that's just what the game is now.
All right, George.
Well, this one hurts if you're a lifelong Tiger fan, because this is the fellow that Detroit gave up on when they acquired David Price. But that being said, that was a different era under Jim Leyland, and they were trying for a championship in Detroit. So this comes back to haunt teams, and it certainly has. I like his numbers. He had 31 homers in 2022, and that was followed by 24 in 23, and then in 2024. 32 home runs, 112 RBIs. Where did he get his speed from, Eric? He went from 5 stolen bases to 21 this past year. Now, he never had that many steals in any one of his other previous seasons. He wasn't even close to that. So that's kind of an interesting stat that he stole 21 bases. But again, part of the change in baseball, I understand that too, with the pitching changes and the new rules. So, but the kid, you're right. I mean, I agree with you, Scott. This is an opportunity for this young man to get probably the best contract that he's going to get, in his career, and hopefully he spends it wisely.
He's 29.
29?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry Detroit let him go, but he's on to bigger and better things in Frisco. So good luck to him.
Well, one of the rule changes you talk about, George, is they made the bases bigger, so that probably might be a reason why his production in terms of stolen bases may have gone up. Go ahead, Mark. You want to add to it?
I was just going to say, George, with catchers today too, I don't think they value them having the type of arm that they had back in the day. I think catchers are more about framing the ball
Yeah.
than anything. And, you know, like they're stealing the shit out of the bases, some of these guys, because of that.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah,
Pitchers
it's
aren't
easy.
holding runners either anymore.
Right, exactly. You only get what, 2 throws over. The third one is a
Balk.
a balk.
You have to get them. You have to get them.
Yep.
Yep. Unless you get them.
Yep.
Can't hear you, Trent.
Two things that are pretty massive there is one is you know, guys learn to run bases as they stay in the league. They learn that hey, they can lead off a little bit more. They can start reading pitchers. They've seen pitchers a lot. They've watched a lot of video. And I think it's also like football now, where you got like a play clock sitting in there, and they're going to hike that ball at 0, man. So you can make a jump on it because they're either going to hike the ball or going to delay a game. And so it's very similar as a runner. These guys are running it down to the end of the clock. They're not throwing over. They're going to have to go to the mound. And now the catcher's not adjusting off speed. In off speed accounts, if you see a pitcher run it down to 1-2 seconds left on that pitch clock, he's got to throw home. And now he's going to throw off speed stuff in an off speed account. That's a great running play. And as a guy who's 29 years, who's got like 8-9 years in the league, he's going to know it now and he's going to jump that route. I'm surprised he didn't have more than 21.
All right, let's go to the chat room real quick there to Decap Biting. The golden bat rule is actually on the back burner. I think that once Commissioner Rob Manfred saw it, was backtracking. You won't see that for a while. It won't. So we won't go any deeper than that. Final topic of the night: the Tampa Bay Rays will be playing 2025 the George Steinbrenner Field. Tropicana Field thinks the Hurricane Milton's is shred. I've actually been to George Steinbrenner Field, and so is Eric. So we'll start off with you, though, Mark. What are your thoughts about the Rays playing over at Steinbrenner Field in Hillsborough County, I might add?
I think that's an awesome gesture by the Yankee organization to allow them to do that. I really, personally, I think that is a class act from them. I think the Rays are going to lose money, though. Like, that's not nearly what they could draw into their stadium. So at the end of the day, I mean, you got good and bad there, but the Rays aren't really packing them in at their stadium either, though. So, I mean, at least they get to play, right? They don't have to play 182 games on the road.
True. Tonight's show, once again, is sponsored by Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions. Eric, go ahead.
I mean, where else were you going to put them? I mean, they were essentially homeless, and going back to what Mark said, they're losing money anyway. It's not like they've been a profitable team where Major League Baseball has stubbornly kept them in Florida and not allowed them to go somewhere else. To be truthful, I think they've been one of Major League Baseball's worst mistakes. It's been a mistake of having 2 Major League Baseball teams in Florida. You can argue which one is. You could make an argument which one is worth, either the Marlins or the Rays, because none of them are making money. But nevertheless, though, good for the Yankees. Give them a home. I mean, where else were you going to put them? But it kind of makes me feel good that they'll be seeing the Yankee greats every time they go to the ballpark every day.
Oh, George Steinbrenner Field, if you haven't been there, is unquestionably
Oh, great.
the
Love
best
it.
park in the state of Florida in terms of the.
Great atmosphere. Great atmosphere, great amenities. It's, they got nice bang for your bucks really in the outfield. But great ballpark. I've been there a few times, and it's been I can't complain about it.
Same here. Okay, Trent.
Relegated, send them down. I don't know. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you just got to be like, hey, man, if you can't repair the thing, and I get it, there's a natural disaster, all this, consideration that I'm surprised they didn't do is maybe split time with their AAA team in the early going, play at home when the AAA team's on the road, like try to bounce a schedule off that for a couple of months in the interim, that they would get their stadium ready back up by June 1st or something to that effect. I don't mind the move over. I don't know how big that stadium is. What do you think the spring training facility holds? Like 12,000?
It's about 11,000-ish.
Is 11? So, I mean, it's not, I mean, I think Tropicana is like 22 or something. So, I mean, it's about halved of what they, and probably about the average of what they've been putting in. But I'm shocked by how these organizations are having to do this and where it's at. And it's I mean, Tampa's competed. I'll give them that. They continue to put a product out there that's not low end. They don't finish last in the league in the division. And so and they're in one of the toughest divisions in the league. So I give them that. But man, this is the kind of stuff, man. Like we've got to do better.
Well, you know what, Trent? I think they had talked about the AAA team, but that facility was not available to them, is what it was. And so therefore, they were looking at a lot of things. They were even looking at Port Charlotte, that facility there, but it wasn't big enough. So they wanted to keep them in the Tampa Bay area. And I personally think they should never have built that albatross down in St. Petersburg in the first place. And they should have built a stadium adjacent to Tampa Stadium. I'll get to you in a second, Eric. I see it.
Is real quick question: is Sacramento the Athletics AAA team?
No, San Francisco.
The Giants, actually.
It's the Giants. It's the
Giants
team.
Ironically.
You got to know how.
But getting to my point, they should never have had that team in St. Petersburg in the first place. It should have been in Tampa from the beginning. I wrote about it many years ago, and it should have. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out in Tampa, where the stadium rightfully belongs. All right, Eric, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, though. Besides the stadium not being big enough, I don't think the Players Association would have gone for it, because remember, you have to run that by the MLB play. You have to run that by the Players Association now, and boy, oh boy, they are a lot more tighter than they used to be. And like at one point, you could probably split time at it'd be one thing. It's one thing for Toronto in a pandemic where they essentially locked them out of their own country and had them play in Buffalo, but. It's completely another, though, where we don't have a global pandemic and we're not forced to do that. There is no way the Players Association would have gone for that, knowing how they operate these days. That's why it didn't happen. And also, Steinbrenner Field, given what the Yankees do there and have done some like massive improvements to that clubhouse from what I've heard, that was probably as good as you were going to get. I know it pissed off the people in Pinellas County that they didn't look further into it, although. In the Rays' defense, though, the ballpark in Clearwater where the Phillies play, I don't think that would have been good enough either. And you would have had to do a bunch of improvements in a short period. You would have had to do a bunch of improvements in a short period of time. But the Yankees were kind of all ready to go there, so that kind of leaves them. So that's why that happened. And also, it's about keeping the players.
Well, here's the thing, Eric. The Players Association, to be honest with you, looked the other way with the Yankees situation is what they did. They realized that was the best alternative of the one, and the pressure and the commissioner is pressing the buttons. I want him in the area, and when the Yankees came up, that made the most sense. So there are times when players' associations will look the other way, knowing what you understand what the alternatives are, much less at short notice. And there was a disaster that took place. What else were you going to do with them? You weren't moving them to Oakland.
They don't have. Well, here's the thing, though, about compared to the other minor league parks around that, at least that part of Florida, anyway, is the Yankees clubhouse has major league ready amenities, unlike the other ballparks. Right. The other ballparks are single A ballparks, which the Yankees is too. But the Yankees also have spring training in that ballpark and have done so for years. So because of the amenities in there compared to the other ballparks. It just made the most logical sense, and the Players Association was okay with it, knowing that the Yankees stadium in Tampa had all that. The Players Association was willing to kind of bend a little bit, which I'm not sure if bend's the right word but I guess tilt.
Can't wait, by the way, to see the Yankees come down for a July or August series when it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity and be in the visiting clubhouse of their facility. I'm pretty excited about actually seeing that.
Well, the Yankees already had home field advantage, regardless of whether it was George Steinbrenner Field or the Trop every time they came down there. So it doesn't really matter there.
It is true. Great point. You quote while you're ahead, Eric. That was good. All right, George has been waiting patiently
very patiently. Manfred's a jerk, okay, and he deserves what he's getting. He in baseball is a jerk for what they allowed Oakland to do, and now you're going through similar stuff. I know it's a different set of circumstances in Tampa, but I agree with Scott. So what are they going to do now? Oh, they got another new stadium, and it got its last hurdle, and it's in St. Pete again. Enough said. That franchise stinks, and so does Oakland. I don't want either one of them around. If they're going to be like that.
Relegated.
Fired up. One of my favorite people's in the chat room, Jennifer Lee Cobb.
Jennifer.
Hey, Jen, thanks a lot for popping in, Jen. Appreciate you.
Jen.
We'll have to talk soon. We have to get you on again. Thanks for being a part of the show tonight, Jen. Appreciate you. So yeah, they're making the best of a tough situation. They really, really are. I mean, what can you do?
Hey, Scott, remember when the Silverdome roof was leaking and the Pistons? You had to go somewhere. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
it's happened. Yeah.
Marlins Park had a little issue back in the day too, with despite it being a dome stadium with a little rain coming in.
Oh yeah.
No, don't get me started about the Pontiac Silverdome, George.
Yeah.
Don't. All right, go ahead, Eric.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, obviously the Rays, in the Rays' defense though, the Rays were kind of forced into this situation. It's not through any fault of their own. Natural disaster happened and it just completely ravaged Tropicana Field. So there's a difference there between being forced into it. The A's were not forced into it. The A's put themselves in that situation where MLB had no choice but to put them there. And the fact that John Fisher completely still makes a fool of himself, and the league for that matter, and Rob Manfred continues to let it happen, shows you just how dysfunctional that owner and also our commissioner is. I'm telling you, I wrote about this I just wrote about this today, that there is nobody who has done more damage to the sport than Rob Manfred.
By the way, just so everybody out there in the chat room, we're talking about the Rays tonight, but we will be, after the first of the year, talking about the Oakland A's. I'm going to have a special topic set aside for that. I don't mind addressing it tonight. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally okay with that, because the two between the Tampa and Oakland situation are somewhat interrelated. But I'll go into more details about the A's in a later date. Probably one of the first things we're going to deal with on the agenda in 25. But you know what? As William Carafa said, all love and education on this chat. Absolutely. Good, great stuff, William. Glad you brought that point up. So, all right, I don't know what Eric has to address here with Joshua Doors. So, and I don't know if Eric's paying attention to it, and I'm not going to read into it. But the reality is this: the Tampa Bay Rays situation is an absolute mess. I don't even know what 26 is going to look like. They don't even know what the long-term solution is going to be. They're just trying to figure out what to do for 25, and the Yankees facility is unquestionably the best thing that fallback options that they had.
The common thing here between both franchises, they continue to be a pain in the ass to Major League Baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, they are.
Exactly.
No question about that.
Absolutely.
So with that, anybody else have anything to say about the subject? I'm going to have one little segment about what you're looking to accomplish in 2025. And we'll start off with Mark Maraday. What's the first thing that you want to see happen in your life in 25, a positive thing for you?
I want to see the Pittsburgh Pirates sign somebody who has something behind them besides, they're going to play there and work to get traded to a team that's competitive. Like, I want to see them literally sign a free agent that's going to be productive and stick around.
All right.
Hey, a man can wish, Ganny.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know.
What about you, Eric?
Man, I want to see the Yankees use that Soto save money and kind of just spread it around and address where they got some holes, because man, the Yankees got plenty of them. And now that they don't have to spend $765 million on a non-generational player, they go ahead and spread it elsewhere. You can probably come back. You might even be able to come back with an even better team despite not having Soto if you spread the money around right.
Okay. What about you, Trent?
I'd like the thing to stop being a circus, man. I mean, I feel like the MLB theme song should be dun 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 dun. I mean, it's like a big top show of a hot mess. And this whole idea of this rule of putting in your best player, your best hitter at any time in the game in a one-off, like DH kind of pinch hit role where you can slot it. I mean, this is the dumbest shit. Like, I just do not understand what MLB is going for, because it's being relegated to like bad church softball league. And so no one's going to pay for this anymore. No one's going to keep coming. I mean, this is becoming a hot mess very quickly. And, I think we're jacking up America's pastime. It's lost all ratings to the NFL. And, listen, I've been there a long time, man, and I'd rather watch the NHL any day right now than I'd rather watch this hot mess. And something's got to change. I want to see some good changes for 2025.
What about you, George?
Well, I'm just wishing for the Detroit Tigers to really show that they're serious too.
Mhm.
Just signing Cobb is a start. This pitcher from Cleveland, but they have to go out there and spend more money than that. I mean, they demonstrated, and we all know Minnesota collapsed, but still, the Tigers did get into the playoffs. And now let's see if Mr. Chris Ilitch will put his money where his mouth supposedly is. So we'll see what happens in Detroit, but I think it should be another good year for AJ and the Tigers. But they've got to make some key signings to get the right balance, especially in pitching and the question mark with Torkelson at first base and the third baseman. They got some things they got to do. So, but hopefully they'll address some of them.
I was going to say, George, even though Minnesota collapsed, Detroit had to win too.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
And they did. They got hot. Like came back from hell and got to the playoffs.
Well, my goal, obviously, 25 is the right book number 2, which was just mentioned. But the bigger goal I have right now is try to minimize the damage that my Alzheimer's disease is starting to inflict a little bit right now. So when I look at my goals next year, it's simply one thing only. I'm looking to get across the big pond with my wife and start to do a little bit of traveling overseas. So because I've traveled to all 50 states and have done a lot in the Caribbean and North America, Canada, and Mexico, but I want to take that across the big pond, whatever it may be. And that's what I'm targeting right now. I'm trying to gather as much information for the second book, but the big pond is definitely in my top priority in 2025. I just wanted to throw that out to everybody, see where everybody was at. Sports, yeah, I have no problem with it, but there's a bigger thing that I'm more concerned about, and I want to continue to see the progress of this network, because I'm going to tell you right now, with every show that we have, I am so blessed and thankful that we have a lot of good crew members on every show that makes it very strong, and everybody on every show does a wonderful job, and I couldn't be surrounded with a better group cast of characters than I am. Of course, Candy Epling does an unbelievable job supporting all this when you talk, putting it all in its perspective. Great stuff. Of course, just a reminder, this is our last show for 108 Stitches Baseball Talk this year, unless there's a special episode that were to come up, then we will definitely do it at the last minute. Otherwise, we will return on January the 13th. These guys are making some sort of a Esther, what is that? Okay, what is it?
It's all love for you, brother. It's all love for you.
Right.
I thought we were acting like sorority girls here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, listen, my crews are what they are. I love them all. I appreciate everything that they do tonight. Not only tonight, but every night. It's just unbelievable, the love I have for you guys. That's what it's all about. I'm not here to talk to myself. It's always nice to have family every single night you come on the air. And I couldn't be surrounded by a better group of individuals than I have on the network. And you start from the ground up, and then you turn it into something. This is the end result when you have all the love across the board. So, Katie, we'll go on for another station break. Thanks for the love, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, they came in all different ways. I wouldn't even know how to do it with my hands. But Katie, go ahead, take us home.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see the red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel. And honestly, I don't know why you haven't yet, but please do so and share us with all your friends and family that you know would enjoy all of our great programming. Monday nights, sometimes we talk hockey. We talk baseball most, but we're going to take a little hiatus here, just like the off season for baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football, so you got to come see what we're talking tomorrow night. Good stuff, great stuff. A lot happening in the world of football as well. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange. You never know what you're going to hear. Any sports goes. Thursday nights, although we're going to be off this week, is Fire Up. And you never know what you're going to hear on that show as well. Then Scott does Motor City Mad Mouth Show. That's, I think, going to be Wednesday night, and he's talking about doing a one-on-one interview. Scott, you want to preview that at all?
Yeah, right now, former South Broward High School quarterback Danny McManus, who's known for his accomplishments in the Canadian Football League, is scheduled to be on Wednesday. I'll get into more specifics as the week goes on, but he played at Florida State University. I'm looking forward to talking to him a little bit, get comparisons from the Canadian game versus what we have here in the United States.
If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Scott writes, George writes, I take pictures. Go check it out. We also have Scott's book. There's a link. There's also a link to our sports merchandising store. So go check that out as well. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. We would also like to definitely, thank all of the participants tonight, not only in the chat room, but the great panel we have assembled here. We would also like to thank Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions for being tonight's sponsor. Sawgrass Cleaning Solutions, thank you very much. But Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. Watch for 1, the audio of this book, and then 2, Scott's going to be writing the second book. Watch for that next year as well. Okay, Scott, back to you.
Thank you very much, everybody in the chat room. Your comments were tremendously appreciated. You're also our sixth man, as they say, seventh with Candy as well. Appreciate everything all y'all provided. We try to get to as many as we possibly can, but you should, everybody in the chat room, give yourselves a round of applause like these guys are doing, and appreciate you as well. But again, we love baseball. You know, we have the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame selections for 2023 will be one of our big stories, and we'll be keeping you caught up with hot stove. And of course, if anything were to come up and we schedule a show at the last minute, we'll certainly do that. So with that said, Mark Meriday, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
And you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube as well, and we're on Roku on Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 on the National Streaming Sports Network. You can find us at OSP with MM or the Original Sports Podcast.
And by the way, Jay, thanks for all the kind words that you mentioned in the chat. I've always said, Jay, you know where you stand with me. So it goes with saying you're MVP in my book, Jay. Appreciate you very much. Okay, go ahead, Eric. Let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can follow me on my Twitter or X at Sports Team News, or you can follow my blog at bellyupsports.com, where I'm writing all things baseball. And if you think I'm biased against your team, yes, I hate your team too.
Okay, well, at least he owns up and lives up to it.
Consistent.
Go ahead, George.
Well, then I have to add, I hate your team too, Eric.
Well, at least mine's won something.
Oh, you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune website under the Motor City Tribune. And at the end of that is a little link to my book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Scott and I got 45 years together starting this show, or one of the shows, the Sports Exchange. And also you can follow me on Yahoo. I'm gicorn at yahoo.com, and on Twitter, X at SanGSports99. And of course, look for me on this wonderful show and many other shows here on the network. All
right, Trent, flash out those rings, my friend.
Yeah, Trent Clark, 13 years in the league, 3 World Series. You can reach me at Trent@leadershipity.com. You can find me on all the socials at Trent M. Clark or Leadershipity, usually on LinkedIn or Facebook's easy or whatever. Look for my book, Leading Winning Teams. Great book. You can pick it up now on 3 different varieties. You can get the hardcover, you can get the ebook, or you can get the Audible. And the audiobook is out. So super excited about that. Released last month. Thank you, Candy. So yeah, check it out. Any store near you, and pick it up online, wherever. And thank you so much for joining us. Always a great year with 108 Stitches, and welcome a big party to be a blessing to be a part of the show with the Motor City Madmouth. So thanks, everyone. And thanks to all the chat room for joining. Always fun.
And you know what? We're looking forward to having you on more 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. I knew you were a natural to bring on here. I have a lot of other things that you and I are going to work on to make even baseball better, as well as some things that we've talked about. So Trent, hang in there. We got more to do. Candy, I want you to promote what you do with the girls. Okay. You have something good going over there. Go for it. The floor is yours.
Tuesday nights, 3 Chicks in a Pod. You got to check it out. Or Chicks and Salsa. Just depends on how many chicks we have available for the night, which one we're doing. But it's on the Chicks podcast on YouTube. Check it out. It's Chicks Talking Sports. Love it. Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. 3 chicks and a biscuit. No J. 3 chicks in a pod. Come on. Get the name right. And thanks, Blows. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
When you get your tongue tied, Candy. All right. Well, that does. Oh, thank you very much. Now I know what that's saying. You know what? I always like words, but everybody uses these emojis and
That's hard,
signals.
isn't it?
I'm not very good at that stuff. I had another guy mention it to me about all these emojis. Hey, but you know what? I get it here. What everybody was doing with their thumbs to make the heart. The only one I'm good at that I can do easily is the U, because it's pretty hard to screw that up when it comes to the Miami Hurricanes. I can do that one. Everything else, my fingers are all out of whack. Who knows?
Yeah.
They didn't have that back then, Scott.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. That'll be for a Sunday phone call, I'm sure. But meanwhile, I want to appreciate this crew. They were outstanding tonight. Chat room as well. If I'm a little redundant tonight, I apologize for nothing, because I believe that you give credit where it's due, and there's a lot of it to be gone around tonight. So, meanwhile, that does conclude this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Last one to 24. 25 is on deck, pun intended. I believe we're going to be looking at January the 13th on a Monday. It'll be the second Monday of January, so check it out. So, on behalf of the barber, Mark Meredith, Candy Ebling, Eric Katz, George Eichhorn, and Trent Clark, my name is Scott Morgan Roth saying, hope you have a great holiday season. Happy New Year, and we will see you back in 2025 better than ever. Good night, everybody.
Feliz
Merry
Navidad.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Happy New Year.